What's up, everybody? Shauna D Man here. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are having yourselves a great weekend. Wanted to make a quick little Star Wars based video with talks going on that Dave Filoni is basically going to be taking over for Kathleen Kennedy as she gets ready to exit. So now Dave Filoni would be the new overhead person of Disney Star Wars, and that has depending on how you feel about it, you either are for it or you're either against it. It was reported earlier. Let's see. I think Forbes wrote something about it. Let's see. Let me pull it up real quick. All right. So Forbes report. So this was done on January 6th. And so this is kind of when the news of it started to like pop up and things like that. But okay, this is okay. So let's see. When it was announced that Kathleen Kennedy was making a succession plan as she prepared to leave Lucasfilm and Star Wars, it seemed like there was probably only one person who could fill her shoes. Now, technically, there are two, but yes, he's one of them. That would be Dave Filoni. A new report from the Reliable Puck News says, I don't know what that is, says that Filoni is about to be tapped as co-president to run the creative side of Lucasfilm, i.e. all of Star Wars. His fellow co-president would be Lynwyn Brennan, who would be on the executive side. Filoni is currently the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm, while Brennan is general manager. But for the big moves, it will fall to Filoni. So overall, basically, when it comes to the production creativity of Star Wars based content, that is going to fall under Filoni. While I guess from an executive standpoint, Brennan is just going to be day to day operations or whatever. So most longtime Star Wars fans are intimately familiar with Dave Filoni, the mind behind 7 seasons of the animated Clone Wars and 4 seasons of Rebels. 204 episodes between them. He has been intimately involved in The Mandalorian and now the upcoming film The Mandalorian and Grogu. He was heavily consulted for The Acolyte, which was not a very good show. It was a very bad show and it got canceled. His dedicated project has been Ahsoka, pulling a whole lot of his characters from the Clone Wars and Rebels into live action, making them officially canon in this new Disney era. Season 1 aired in September of 2023. At best, Season 2 will probably air 3 years later. So it's basically saying, either it's saying 2026 or 2029. I'm not clear on that. I'm assuming 2026, but I could be wrong about that. Um, is Filoni potentially running all of Star Wars good or bad news for the franchise? That depends on who you ask. If it feels like most would approve of the decision, with the man responsible for some of the best Star Wars storylines we've seen, especially in his peak Clone War days. Others think he's too involved in making his own stuff into key parts of new era Star Wars, as we see in Ahsoka, a show that was received somewhat tepidly. So, yeah, Dave Filoni, a lot of people are not really big Dave Filoni fans. Yeah, Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels were really pretty, for the most part, received positively from the fan base and everything. There are, like, again, he had a hand in Star Wars The Acolyte, and Star Wars The Acolyte was not a very good show. It was a very divisive show, and that like a lot of people are kind of like, that's I think that's where I saw most of people talk about um potentially like Dave Filoni being like a hack and things like that. And yeah, he is super heavily obsessed with like his characters. There are probably several opportunities where Ahsoka should have died, and that should have been it for the character. Like she should have died in Twilight of the Apprentice with Star Wars Rebels. But they can't seem to kill her off for some reason, and so now if it's not his project, if it's not his baby, is he really going to care as much? Because we saw him have a hand in The Acolyte, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have a hand in Star Wars Skeleton Crew. And Star Wars Skeleton Crew, if it had came out first before The Acolyte, I think that probably would have gotten a season two. But that show was very, very good. It was one of the better Star Wars projects that we have gotten in quite some time. The sequel trilogies, despite what people want to say about them, have been also divisive, have not really been good as well. Andor, a very, very solid Star Wars show, one that I personally love both seasons of it. You have some Star Wars fans who are like, "Oh, that's not really Star Wars or anything like that." Uh, Andor is a very good, solid show. You have a mixed bag with the Mandalorian series. You have season one and two. And season one, relatively good. Season two, very cameo heavy. And then season three wasn't really that great at all. It just wasn't. Now you got the Mandalorian and Grogu. A lot of people are probably expecting that to fail as well. Now we'll see. It's the first Star Wars film in theaters since The Rise of Skywalker back in 2019. You look at shows like, Star Wars Visions has been relatively good. I've seen a lot of people enjoy that. The Bad Batch has been really, really good as well. Um, Kenobi, mixed bag there. Um, the Book of Boba Fett, very disappointed in that show. I have a video talking about that show coming out in a bit as well. But they can Dave Filoni be trusted to move Star Wars back into the George Lucas side of things, and not with this era of Disney where it involves them trying to appease a fan base or a small portion of a fan base that's not going to show up and support it the way the much larger overall fan base of Star Wars has been over the years, whether it was the the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy. Year after year after year, that particular portion of the fan base has started to grow very, very, not a fan of the Disney era of Star Wars. So yeah, right, yeah. The Force Awakens made a ton of money, but that was also kind of like we haven't had a Star Wars movie in theaters since 2008, The Revenge of the Sith. So everybody was so hyped, everybody's excited for it. It was a relatively good movie, except for some rehashing of A New Hope. But for the most part, it was a pretty solid, pretty good movie. And then obviously the rest of the sequel trilogies and other things like that. So let's keep reading. Kathleen Kennedy is often painted as a villain for greenlighting the Star Wars projects that fans have not liked in the Disney era, though many realize that she was also one pushing for a show like Andor back when it seemed like a long shot. Now we'll give you can be critical of Kathleen Kennedy and you can give her credit as well. If this is indeed the case, then she should get credit for helping to push a show like Andor. But she also should get criticism for pushing shows like The Acolyte or wearing shirts that says the Force is female and just all these unnecessary topics brought into Star Wars that just really had no place for it in the first place. Um, the current state of Disney Star Wars is so scattered that it is hard to even know what would happen under Filoni. Ahsoka is the only Disney Plus show confirmed to even be coming back, with everything else either being canceled, finished, or a one-off. The big return to Star Wars movies is a spin-off of a TV show. After that, there are more potentially interesting project. Yeah, Star Wars Starfighter comes out next year, May 2027, which that seems to be a very interesting movie as well. But it also seemingly is going to be tied to the Rey, the Rey movie that has been talked about since 2019. We'll see. And James Mangold directed Dawn of the Jedi. That's one we haven't really heard much about as well, which still exists at this point with a graveyard of other canceled Star Wars films behind it. I mean, what was it? It was Rogue Squadron. We were supposed to get a movie about that, but that hasn't happened. We've had all these different projects that have been canceled over the years, and so it's just kind of like, my main concern with Filoni would be him continue to try to make the Clone Wars slash Rebel era and characters a main focus of Star Wars going forward. The series badly needs to escape the Skywalker era, either going forward post Han, Luke, and Leia, or going way backward. Either moving past the original trilogy timeline, or going way before the prequel trilogy timeline. Now, again, they tried that with the Acolyte. They did not succeed. It was a failure. So it's gonna be interesting to see on how things shape up in regards to that. But yeah, we are probably going to hear at some point that Kathleen Kennedy is officially going to step down and Dave Filoni is going to take over. And we'll see, because again, the only set of Star Wars content that we're getting, maybe outside of a few video games, I'm talking about like movie TV wise, is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which drops this year. Then Star Wars Starfighter, which drops next year. Ahsoka season 2, we don't really have a timeline. I would assume 2026, but maybe 2027. Who knows? And then that's basically it. And there's we don't have any other type of Star Wars, announcements coming. So we'll just have to wait and see on how that shapes out the rest of the way. But guys, that is relatively it. If you're new to the channel, be sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure you comment below. Tell me what you guys think. Other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Y'all have a good one.